Good morning, Michigan. How are we doing today? No, look, you know me by now. I literally live off of energy. So I'm going to need more energy than that. So, Michigan, how are we doing today? Fantastic. My name is Jahin Tanvir. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at the Australian School of Entrepreneurship. And my last 18 months have been the craziest months of my life. Let me paint you a picture. 18 months ago, I was a 21-year-old sitting in my university dorm room, absolutely miserable. I hated what I was studying. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I was just like, I need some hope. And so what I decided to do was I started something that I always wanted to start, but I never had the courage to do so. As a 21-year-old, I started my first ever business. I had no idea my only business literacy came from YouTube videos and TikTok. That's it. Fast forward 6 months later, that company that I started in my university dorm room, that singular room, that got acquired. So I sold that company to the ASC group. 6 months after that new role that I started, we received Shark Tank investment from Australia. And then 6 months after that, I'm standing here in Michigan for the second time in a row. It's been absolutely wild. Thank you, thank you. But the purpose of my talk today is, all of that is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I feel like I'm living my purpose. But you can find all of that publicly when you Google me. You can find all of that on my LinkedIn. I'm very big on social media. I love sharing stuff. As you can see, I've got a camera following me the entire day. I love it. I strive off of content, which my Gen Z friends absolutely love. But the problem is, that is all at the top of the iceberg, right? That's all the things that you see superficially. As I mentioned, when you Google me, you'll see that stuff. But what is all the stuff underneath? What is the sacrifices, the failures, the moments where I'm just on my knees and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life? What is that part where we don't talk about? What is that part about leadership? What is that part about heroism? What is that part about standing out and making something of yourself? What does that look like? So the purpose of my talk today is I want to share 4 of the hardest lessons I've learned in the last 18 months. Like I said, I talked to you about all the good things that happened that really made me feel good about my life, but what about the 4 things that really made me realize there is more to life than just success? There is more to life than just achieving the next accomplishment and the next one and the next one. Where is the end? What are the lessons? So what I'll share with you today are the 4 of the hardest lessons that I've learned. And 1, to make you aware of what that looks like, but number 2, share with you how I've been able to overcome that, right? There's no point in me sharing a story and telling you this is what I've done, this is what helps me. What can you do about it? The moment you leave this room, how can you actually utilize those lessons and make your life even better? Does that make sense? Yeah. Fantastic. So the first hardest lesson, again, it's a lot of energy talking about hard stuff, but it's crazy. The first hardest lesson I ever learned was when it comes to leadership, when people rely on you, when you're in a position where people are dependable on you, you have to have a very high level of pain tolerance. A very high pain tolerance level. What does that mean? When you realize when you're striving towards something, when you're building something, more things go wrong than more things than go right? You'll go through obstacles, you go through struggles, you go through periods where you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. We keep getting rejections. All these emails just like, dear Jahin, unfortunately, all of the negative stuff. Things go wrong more than they go right. And so you have to build that resilience, that pain tolerance level of I can handle 10 rejections every single day because I know that one approval will literally change people's lives, right? An example that I use when it comes to pain tolerance is flying. As Matt mentioned, I flew down from Sydney, Australia. Some of you who are my friends know that I absolutely hate flying. The reason for that is when the plane just, is cruising at an altitude and then it goes down and up and down and up, I hate that. I have a fear of turbulence. Since I was a little kid, my mom still makes fun of me. I would always be the person to hold someone's hand and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why is the plane going like this? Frightened. Last year in 2022, I had 85 flights. This year in 2023, I've given up counting. I am frightened. But I still fly around because I know opportunities like this need to be going on a plane. Trust me, when I landed in Dallas and I was looking at from Dallas to Detroit, I looked up how long did it take to actually walk there. I had no idea. But I was like, do I want to catch this flight or can I actually like maybe get a scooter, scoot down? I hate flying. But how do you overcome that? How do you build that pain tolerance level? You lean into it. You realize I have to do it. Why? Because all this beautiful stuff, all of these beautiful people I meet are on the other side of that pain, of that fear, of the struggle, all of that, right? Building a high pain tolerance level, leaning into it and doing it anyways. The second hardest lesson I learned in the last 18 months is, has anybody heard of the two very frightening words, imposter syndrome, before? Raise your hands if you've ever felt imposter syndrome before. Almost the whole room put their hand up. Imposter syndrome is the whole idea of feeling like an imposter when you're supposed to be doing something, right? You're feeling like, I don't belong here. Should I actually be here? Am I capable to do this stuff? I used to feel this a lot. Being a young CEO, I'd go into rooms and they'd be like, oh, are you the PA? Are you the intern? I'm like, no, I'm actually speaking after you. It's quite awkward. Everybody feels imposter syndrome. It's a horrible feeling where you're just like, should I be here? Should I not be here? But the truth and reality is, imposter syndrome is a collective struggle. I've had the chance to be mentored and speak to a lot of esteemed individuals across the world who are worth millions of dollars to billions of dollars. And one question I always ask them whenever I have these coffee chats is, do you still feel imposter syndrome? Do you still feel like, oh, should I be here? Should I not be here? You drive the nicest cars, you have a private jet, but do you still feel imposter syndrome? And on God, every single response they have is yes. Especially in the early hours in the morning when they're alone, every single person feels imposter syndrome. How do you overcome that? One thing that I do is I have a file on my laptop where anytime I've ever gotten a compliment in my life or a testimonial or a nice text message, I take a screenshot and I put them all into that folder. So anytime I feel like an imposter or I feel a little downcast or I feel like, oh, I feel quite tough today, I look at that folder of just people complimenting nice messages, things like, great speech today, you have really nice eyes. I'm just going to put them into that folder. So that anytime I feel horrible, I'm like, oh, this person really likes my eyes. That's how I overcome feeling like an imposter, right? When I realize I've got a good support system that I can access, which is literally just a Google folder, but I can access it anytime I feel down, anytime I feel like I don't belong somewhere. I know people are there that appreciate me for who I am. Does that make sense? The third hardest lesson that I learned this year is all around how this opportunity came to be. So the third hardest lesson is closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't ask for something, you'll never get it. And so my origin story with Matt, funny enough, is I was about 18 years old. This was pre-COVID, that period. I remember I was scrolling through YouTube and I came across the Hero Roundtable on my feed. And I was just like, oh, this looks really cool. This looks better than TED Talks. I was like, I'd love to, right? Clap for Matt. So I was like, this is really cool, but I'm just like, I don't like public speaking. I'm frightened. This is overseas. But I sent Matt an email when I was 18 years old. And my email was, salutations to Hero Roundtable. I know, horrible. I could have said hi, hello, hey, dear. Salutations, Hero Roundtable. And I said, my name is Jahin. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I don't really have stage presence. I don't like public speaking, but it's something I really want to do one day. It's a goal I have that I really want to do one day. I've never done a TED Talk, but this looks really cool. Can you tell me the application process or how much it costs to speak? Like, I was desperate because I was just like, this is so cool. And then Matt, being Matt, he took a chance on an 18-year-old. He gave me a phone call and it was just like, I'm from Yarram. And I'm like, where is Yarram? He's like, oh, it's about 2 hours away from Melbourne. I'm like, that makes more sense. I spoke to him and I remember, he didn't actually say, yes, you can speak here, but he gave me the confidence where he's just like, when we have one, I would love to consider you. And as an 18-year-old, like I said, I had no public speaking skills. I didn't know how to talk to people. Just that vote of confidence from one person from Yarram, which I've never heard before in Australia. One person took a chance on an 18-year-old where I was just like, if you can even consider me to be on a stage, that's enough for me to pursue this goal of mine. To learn public speaking, to fail, to learn again, to fail, to learn again. That vote of confidence. And so you'll never get anything unless you ask. How will the universe give you anything if you don't put it out there? A lot of people have fantastic photos of their achievements or accomplishments or speaking gigs all in their camera roll. They never put it out anyway. It's just in their camera roll. how will you ever get more opportunities if you don't actually showcase that and say, hey, today I did this, I'd love to do more in the future, right? Closed mouths don't get fed. Put yourself out there, show your work, more opportunities will come to you. And the fourth hardest lesson I learned this year, to wrap up this talk of mine, the fourth hardest lesson that I learned is all around perseverance. Perseverance. People are messy. People are, inconsistent. People have different things that go on in their lives. But people are also beautiful. People are the reason we do what we do. People are the reason we will run through walls. I work for my team. Team don't work for me. I work for my family. So the biggest thing I learned is we need to treat people with so much kindness. We need to treat people with so much, courage, bravery, valor. And one of the biggest mentoring tips I got when I was about 21 years old, somebody once told me the best way to approach people is to think of them having the worst day of their lives. When you go to interact with someone, think of them having the worst day of their life. Something could, horrible happen to them, so that you go into them with this extra layer of kindness, where you're not just going and say, hey, how are you? How's your day? An extra layer of kindness. The best example I can give you for that is Lavinia, who's our program manager at the Australian School of Entrepreneurship. She takes care of our phone calls. So anybody who calls us the ASC, she takes care of phone calls. When somebody calls us a company, what's the first thing that they say? Hey, Lavinia. Hey, my name is Lavinia. How can I help you? Right? A very common response. Her pickup from the phone call is, hi, this is Lavinia. How can I make your day amazing? Not, hi, how can I help you? How can I make your day amazing? A very small change in their approach, which makes people feel like, oh, this person actually cares about me. It's a phone call. I can't see them, but this person actually cares about me. So people are messy. People have a lot going on in their lives. But it's just about how we approach them with that extra layer of kindness. Does that make sense? So to wrap up, the final thing that I've learned as a bit of a bonus, and I genuinely live by this, especially when it comes to perseverance and the struggles and what it means to be a leader, which is something I'm still trying to figure out as I develop myself. A line that I love looking at every time I wake up is, if you can look up, you can get up. If you can look up, you can get up. In a lot of instances, struggles feel very much larger than they are. But fundamentally, when you take a macro approach, problems are much smaller than we make it out to be. If you can look up, you can get up. If you can look up enough, you can see the top of the iceberg, right? The great parts of life. Thank you, everyone.